Good evening, and thanks again for joining us for SBIDC's first virtual Sunset Swing. I'm joined by one of SBIDC's newest board members, Jeff Lee. Jeff is currently principal at Capolino and Company and has an extensive background in economic and community development. He previously managed New York City Economic Development Corporation's Strategic Investments Group and managed the Build NYC Resource Corporation when he was there. He's also worked in the private sector at law firms representing affordable housing developers, among many other clients. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ben. How you doing this evening?
Oh, so good. Thanks, really. Thanks for joining, and thanks for joining the SBIDC family. Along those lines, what was it about our work and our mission that kind of piqued your interest in joining the board of directors?
Yeah, no, great question. I'm a New York City native, Ben. I'm born and raised in New York, Queens to be precise. And, I think that vantage point is one that makes me constantly think of the importance of community and the importance of keeping this city vibrant, vibrant in terms of jobs, in terms of sectors, in terms of neighborhoods. And through the lens, just being familiar and increasingly familiar with the work that Southwest Brooklyn has been doing in helping create and preserve and advocate for the sector that really creates accessible jobs. That's been a huge part of it. I'm also someone who comes from the Latinx and Asian communities of New York City. And, those are the neighborhoods that you folks are in and you serve. And I'm always looking for more ways to connect community with economic development. There are a lot of reasons, but I think those are the first ones that come to mind. And certainly, the importance of the working waterfront. I'm someone who is a big advocate for waterfront and maritime, and you folks do a lot of work in that space as well.
Great. Well, we're lucky to have you. And kind of following along your interest in the sector, I mean, you had a whole span of time working for the city at an EDC, helping industrial manufacturers. What is it about the industrial sector in New York that you think is so vital and so important?
Yeah, it's always been important. And I think that in the post-COVID world and with the pandemic, it's really revealed the real importance and of having a vibrant local industrial community and ecosystem. We've seen a need for nimble local production, for nimble local innovation, right? Whether it's in terms of healthcare devices, pharmaceuticals, PPE production, distribution, and just transportation. All of that, I think or many of us, Southwest Brooklyn has known this and has been advocating for it. And I think that the rest of the world is realizing that this is key. And so I think for some of those reasons, it's going to be really important to make sure that the local innovative industrial community is strengthened to keep us resilient for future changes and future disruptions.
No, certainly. I mean, it's been a theme of ours to try and express that the pandemic has really exposed like the vital need of our sector, especially our Southwest Brooklyn working waterfront, in the city's recovery, but just not in a recovery, in a more equitable and resilient recovery, and resiliency both from a financial point of view, but also a physical resiliency as well. And I think some of our honorees this evening represent a lot of that work currently that's important to the city and will be important and essential moving forward. Do you see, I know that you also do a lot of webinar work and have been doing that throughout the last months of recovery. I imagine in doing your work, you're finding the challenges that lay ahead and certainly helping businesses navigate through that. But what are some opportunities that you're also uncovering or seeing out there that we should be thinking about in terms of our investment and SBIDC's work moving forward?
Yeah, no, great questions. I mean, certainly the nation's economy, the global economy is going to go through some challenges. But in terms of the opportunities, I think that we are realizing the importance of what's local. There's going to be a trend towards reshoring and onshoring in a variety of sectors, and all that I think bodes well for local innovation, local makers, local industrial, the ability to have the capacity to innovate and to innovate rapidly and nimbly and do that on a local level, and be less prone to, the pandemic, let's face it, is just one of the geopolitical challenges that are out there. There's also political tensions, trade tensions. And so, and who knows what will come down the road. There may be more that we're not even aware of, but all of those, I think are really pointing to the need for doubling down on capacity for local innovation.
I don't think we could be more in agreement about that. SBIDC, a small provider, nonprofit provider, can only control so much. However, we really need to think about how we use our bandwidth, how we prioritize our resources. So in helping companies find ways of not only surviving, but relaunching and then innovating and pivoting and changing, what are some things that an SBIDC, a local nonprofit provider, can or should be thinking about?
Yeah, I think that the work of continuing to sustain the local industrial community, to continue to provide them with information and resources, and to be an advocate, right? We all know the power of the coalition. It's one thing to be one maker, one entrepreneur, one family-owned business, but it's hard to get your voice heard when you're just one. On the other hand, when you've got the power of the group, of the coalition, and I think that's where Southwest Brooklyn has been amazing at using its voice in the industrial conversation, in the economic development conversation, to advocate for resources, to advocate for policy, and to use its position as a smart, well-informed, forward-looking voice on policy, just to continue to do that. It's especially when resources left and right are being cut and reduced, companies are being asked to do more with less, cities are being asked to do more with less. It's going to be so important, and I can't think of an organization that's better equipped to do that than Southwest Brooklyn.
Great, Jeff. Well, thanks again for joining SBIDC and joining us tonight at Virtual Sunset Swing. Hope you enjoy our virtual experience, and thanks again.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Okay.